Welcome to the second episode of the Demiroglu-Erol podcast. I am Itero.
And I am Ozan Demiroglu, and today we have a very special guest, Sasha Cole of the Ladcast. Sasha, how are you? Great to have you on the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. This is one of my first podcast appearances. So excited to be on the show.
And we're very excited to have you. So, yeah. All right. So, as a relatively young person who has launched their own podcast, would you say that there would be like any additional obstacles compared to like maybe a little bit like more mature person when trying to move forward through your podcasting journey?
Yeah, so I think my age is kind of like an interesting asset to my podcast business. I'm 19, gonna be 20 in a few days. So I think I approach it from the fact that I'm young and I want to connect with younger people. So honestly, as of right now, it's not been that much of an issue. I think maybe when I get down the line, if it begins to grow, then like I may run into obstacles where people may not take me as seriously, right? I'm an younger person, and these old guys which don't maybe know like the exact market I'm in as much, it'll be a little bit different. But I believe that if you keep just pushing and I keep my work to a high standard, then eventually people will respect me for however young I am.
Yeah, that's definitely bound to happen, and we're excited to see you strive in that in the coming years. So, if I'm not mistaken, you were originally in a group podcast, and I think this was called the Ladcasters. And how was it the transitions, like a more interview-based, like a solo show?
Yeah, so you guys did your research. Yeah, the Ladcast was brought about in, I believe it was like June 2020, so a couple months right after the pandemic, right after Project Restart. So the Premier League had just gotten back, and me and my friends, huge soccer fans, huge football fans. So we were like, let's do a podcast. So I led it. I was the host. I did all the graphics. I edited it, and my friend just kind of came on to Zoom meetings and we recorded. That was fun for a couple episodes, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5. But at the end of the day, it was just kind of like one podcast in a void, right? So it didn't really, it wasn't special. I wasn't doing anything that anyone else was doing or is doing the same, right? So a couple months later, I was doing whatever. I was back in school. Then I kind of like one night, I was like, what if I switch it up? What if it's just me and I bring in interviews? I reached out to some players, some people in the industry, and let's make some content. Let's see what happens. So that like a couple of days later, I was just DMing many people, emailing as well. For like I guess the Ford Madison specifically. Yeah, I just never stopped requesting DMs, and a couple of them hit. Right, I got Nico Carrera, super early, big player. Shout out to him, Nico's my boy. And then it just came on from there. Past couple months has been a little slower since I've been busy and stuff, but looking to relaunch, and like season 2 kind of is coming soon. So look out for it.
We're looking forward to that, definitely. And
your most successful episode has been with Dylan Keane. What has made the episode more special than your other episodes for your audience?
Well, that one's interesting because that one has the most views. I think just yesterday it's like almost 4,000 views. But what's interesting about that one is it's right around like the average view duration for it's like something like 2.5 minutes. So I was interested, like, where did that boost come from? That I believe it was from so that video was posted. Someone else posted it on a Barnsley forum online. So they got a bunch of clicks from there. People would go in like, hey, who's this dude? JLDK was popping during that time. So there's that huge American connection. So that one was the most viewed, but I don't think it was the most successful in terms of episode quality, production, and viewership. I think some of my most later ones, although smaller viewer, like lower amount of views, they're more, the duration for them is longer and people engage with it more.
So one of your most valuable guests, Gennaro, plays for a famous European club, AS Roma. What would you say distinguishes him from the other valuable soccer players you have interviewed?
So yeah, Gennaro is a really cool kid. He's actually out loan right now to Potenza Calcio, which is a Series C side. So he's AS Roma contractually, but I think it's been a 2-year long loan. I think Gennaro is a really cool player, and it's really cool to hear about his experiences training with the first team with I forget who the coach exactly was, but it's really like serious stuff and around that environment. I think honestly, Gennaro may not be the highest potential, highest quality player that I've interviewed. Guys like Moses Nyman and Jonathan Gomez have already been called in. They're on the preliminary roster for the U.S. Gold Cup, so they're in that 23 to 30 best MLS players. But yeah, definitely in the next couple of years, like someone I guess will be at those big clubs, and they'll be along with Gennaro and being in the top 5 leagues.
And yeah, that would be very interesting to see,
Yes.
because you interviewed them like so many years before,
Yeah.
so you'd be able to say like, yeah, I got him so much earlier. And
Right,
moving on
that's-
to the
that's cool.
fifth question, I think it would be safe to say like you specialize in interviewing soccer players, but like every now and then, like your first episode, you interview someone who's like more affiliated but not exactly directly involved. And again, the first episode with Jason Klein, the marketing creator, and also like the famous TikTok referee. Would you say that like there's any significant differences, or would you say it's like basically the same environment between the creators and the players?
No, there definitely is a difference. So I interviewed probably like my average is like 16 to 18, 19-year-old players, and that interview environment is a lot different from like Jason Klein and referee POV, because these guys, although they may not have done many interviews, they're more well spoken, and they've kind of got their public speaking out. But some of the younger guys, this is some of their first interviews, so not all of them are like shy or anything, but just like it's a skill to really articulate and put your words onto the camera. So that's definitely something that separates those younger guys from the more established, like referee POV, like you mentioned.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. And I don't want you to like share all your secrets and all, but like, how would you go through the process, would you say, of like finding a potential guest, or like, maybe like a guy to come on the show in the coming weeks or months?
Yeah, well, if it went to plan, I would have 600 interviews with all the DMs I've sent. Right as of right now, it's just sort of reaching out Instagram DM to a bunch of players. My pool that I sort of draw from is usually like U.S. youth national team players. So I go through the list from like 2019 under 21s or 2021 under 16, 17. So that pool, as well as players featured on one of the sites I use, or Instagram handles, social media platforms, is US MNT only. So they're always coming out with news about, this new 14-year-old just the other day signed for New York City. So I've followed him, and, I may reach out to him shortly, stuff of that matter. Or Dylan Keane, like, for example, I DM'd him right after he got shouted out on there, same for Kenny Hott. So, just keeping up with the trends, and US MNT basically kind of like pool players and getting in them early so that we can profit later on.
Yeah, well, you can say that like your tenacity did pay off. You have I think it was like 20-ish guests so far, and hopefully again it will increase or exponentiate. And you have had, I wouldn't say like the longest, but your career has definitely been like definitely has longevity. And ever since starting your podcast, what would you say has been like the big exclamation point, or like the highlight of like your career so far?
Yeah, I think in my past couple of interviews, probably like from Andres Jason, I can specifically think of. So at the end of that interview, I was like, hey man, thanks for coming on, appreciate you, and looking forward to your career getting better. And he was like, yeah man, like same for you, like I hope to see your podcast doing well. So it's kind of cool to see that that relationship like with those players. And as well as that, so I've actually seen a couple of my guests in real life. So Moses Nyman I've seen twice. I worked for the Philadelphia Union, and I was able to ball boy for a couple of games, and that was a game against DC United. So I was like, hey, what's up, Moses? Like, nice to see you, man. Like, what's up, dude? Same for Brandon Craig for the Union. I was supposed to see a couple other guys, but that eventually didn't work out for whatever reason. Just couldn't go to the game. But, like building those connections, like shouting them out, or like Nico Carrera is someone I talk to a lot on Instagram. Just like, asking him and keeping up with the guy. And same for other guys like Marcel Palomino. So just building those relationships, and I guess like going from just the kid who interviewed them to like, a respected person in the space.
Yeah, I mean, that's great that you have a relationship. Not many people would like go through the hustle, I guess, to establish that. And so
sure.
To contrast with the previous question, what would you say has been the lowest point in your podcasting career?
Yeah, I think I can't really point to any moment specifically, but being a content creator it's hard, man. Like there are a lot of different challenges that you face, and you're constantly asking myself like, oh, I'm putting this into the void, like is it worth it? Why am I not popping off like this guy? But at the end of the day, I just keep remembering like, hey man, like I'm doing my content. It'll increase if I put in the work, and every day I get better. Every day I learn how much I don't learn, and eventually my 10,000 hours will eventually come, and wherever that may be, if it may be Ladcast or other sources. So every day I just get better and hope to continue on doing that. And just remember that, however slow, it pays off in the end.
Yeah, and we know that your efforts are not in vain. We are sure that your podcast will be exploding pretty soon.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
This has been a great episode. So to conclude this great episode of our podcast, what would you give as advice for our future podcasters?
Believe in yourself and believe in your content. Be passionate about what you do, because if you're not passionate, then what's the point? Love what you do, and then you'll really get to the niches and what you need to make that better. You want to learn, you want to get better, and eventually that can make for some great stuff online.
All right. Well, Sasha, thank you for a great episode. And as an additional thanks, we will be donating $5 to $10 to the St. Jude's Research Hospital. Just for thanks. And, make sure to check out Sasha's podcast, The Ladcast. And once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. See you.
All right. See you.